What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, a podcast that talks about comic books, movies, TV shows, and we feature a beer of the week typically. I am Matt. With me is Lauren, and we are talking today with Ryan Curtis, who has done some special effects for one of our favorite shows, Supernatural. We're going to chat about that here in the second half of the episode, where we'll have a beer of the week for you. But for now, go ahead, go to social media, Hops Geek News on any podcasting platform, any social media platform. That's where you can find us. Like, subscribe, share, all of that good stuff. Help the podcast grow. And if you're looking for us, we're going to be at GalaxyCon Richmond and AwesomeCon in DC coming up here in March. We just wrapped up MegaCon, had a lot of good time. So head to our YouTube channel. Make sure you check out all of our fun content, our panels, our just coverage in general. Lauren's been killing it with the video. So head there. And first time joining us, hey, we always start off with what we're drinking, which today it's morning when we're recording this first half of the episode. So we're probably drinking coffee. I got water. And other than that, we go into what we've messed up into, looked into, what we're reading or watching, and some news before the main topics. So Lauren, are you drinking coffee, I presume?
I am drinking coffee. How did you know?
That's because it's morning. I'm getting sick. Finally, like a week after the con, I'm like actually sick and I feel like shit. It's hit me the past couple of days. Like I got a cold or something like that. It's not COVID, I don't think, but who knows these days.
Well, I made it through the con feeling fine. And then my kids have both had runny noses like on Thursday and Friday. And now I think I'm getting it. So thanks, kids. But I think we got through the con fine. I
think we did too. I'm just wicked congested and like my chest hurts kind of. And I'm really tired.
I think I just have congestion.
Better, who knows? I don't know. It's raining here, so maybe the rain's not helping it, knocking all that stuff. I don't know, man. I don't know how to do any of this.
We're not doctors.
I'm not a doctor. I just pretend to play one.
Yep, Dr. Sexy.
All right. Well, we haven't messed up or looked into anything. Been about a week break since we recorded last because we were at MegaCon, so we didn't have a chance to really record anything. If you want, go back and check out all of our previous episodes. However, what I have been reading or watching lately, some of my comic book reviews for Nerd Initiative this week were How to Lose a Guy Gardner in 10 Days, which is a Valentine's Day special. It's about 8 issues or 8 different stories within this big issue. Our friend Kenny Porter, who famously wrote The Schlub, and he's done, Nightwing and Superboy, I should say, not Nightwing, I'm sorry. He had the opening which is about Guy Gardner, and it was really cool. You have the Flash trying to perfect his very first date with Iris. You have Wonder Woman, who everybody's kind of after her, right? She's a female superhero, so everybody's kind of like trying to get her love in that one. You have like Nightwing and Barbara Gordon, a story about them. Then, of course, Guy Gardner's the leadoff story. So it's fun. It's a collection. I love romantic comedies. So go ahead, check that out.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, it's true. I also read Mace Windu issue number 1 from Marvel, which Mark Bernardin, who is the writer on this. It's about Mace Windu, of course, and it takes place during the Clone Wars. He's got a special mission going on. They're trying to recover some coaxium that was stolen and being sold. Yes. Every time I read
coaxium last week at Disney.
We did. Me, you, Sean, and Sam recovered some coaxium for the Resistance. Whereas in this one, they're trying to prevent coaxium from being sold to the Separatists, which every time I hear coaxium, I just hear it in Hondo's voice. So as I'm reading the comic, all I hear is coaxium. I can't do Hondo's voice, but you know how it goes.
I can hear it in my head too.
That's what I was hearing. We watched The Marvels again, which I think is super severely underrated, and people are finally paying attention that it's a good movie. I saw some people.
Fun.
It is. Like, people were complaining about the whole musical sequence, and I'm like, dude, what? That was like my favorite part.
Okay, so the musical sequence is a bit silly, but they're making fun of it while it's happening. So I feel like that makes it like okay, because you got Monica and Kamala are just like, is this really happening? And then they're like, you should be dancing. She's like, I am dancing. So it's like they're making fun of it too. So I feel like that makes the whole.
Oh yeah, it's very fourth wall.
Better.
Like they were very much like, what's going on? And Carol's like, just go with it, pretty much.
Yeah, no, I like it. Brielle started watching it, so I fell asleep last night. I was exhausted. We did the ale line, and then like as the night went on, I'm like, I think I'm getting what the kids had. This morning we're playing, is it Hangover or is it Sick?
Our favorite game to play last Sunday. It was definitely Hangover for me.
Yeah, well, today's Super Bowl Sunday, so after this, I'm just gonna relax with a book on the couch and then watch the Deadpool 3 trailer.
I got to do laundry and then put myself through that stupid Super Bowl. But I did watch something that was very good. I did watch Lisa Frankenstein.
Ooh.
I went and saw that Friday. It's got Cole Sprouse playing the creature. It's got Catherine Newton, famously of, her from Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. And she's been in a ton of other
Supernatural.
things. Yes. And so she plays Lisa. It's basically a dark comedy that if John Hughes and Tim Burton had a baby, this is the result.
Okay,
And
that's awesome.
I did see somebody, the review was, it's your typical rom-com. No, it's not. This is not like a romantic comedy. It's very, well, I guess it could be, in a way it is. It's kind of like an Edward Scissorhands type romantic comedy, I guess, if you look at it that way, but it's very much like a dark comedy, because my romantic comedies don't typically have people dying in them, of murder and things, which murder happens. I don't want to spoil it, but it's very good.
Yeah,
It's
I definitely want to see it.
artsy. It's very goofy. The humor works for me. The 80s vibe works for me. Catherine Newton stands out. She's absolutely fantastic in this movie. Just the way
She's a great actress.
she reminds me of, what was Tim
Girl
Burton's
from Totally Killer? Oh.
No, Tim Burton's wife, who was Bellatrix Lestrange, and she was in all his movies.
Fight Club.
She reminds me of like a younger version of her, whose name I don't know why I am blanking on her name, because she's in so many movies. But her acting in this movie,
Tim Burton's wife.
Well, they got divorced, I think, so it's not his wife anymore. But
Tim Burton's ex-wife.
Yeah, she's very much kind of gives me those vibes. And Cole Sprouse was great too. It was very much, I didn't know what to expect because I never really watched a trailer, but came out really pleasantly surprised. My review is up on Nerd Initiative. I wrote a review of the movie if you want to go read it, but I highly recommend you go to see this, man. It's not your typical movie. And for people that are complaining that all movies are the same now, this is very much not that. So if you want to get more of this, go see it.
Nice.
What have you been getting up to this week?
So my comic book reviews for this week were, one was Wolverine Madripoor Nights, and it takes place right after the Uncanny X-Men 268. And if that does not sound familiar, it is the issue where Natasha has got that ass and they have her positioned looking out over, the cover. This was fantastic. It's going to be just a short run, and I think it's great for anybody who hasn't read any comics about Madripoor, because we're now seeing Madripoor in the MCU. Obviously, I have a soft spot in my heart for Wolverine, but it was so much fun. The art was great from beginning to end. They're basically supposed to be celebrating something that they did in the last comic. And of course, chaos ensues. You have the Hand comes in and, Captain America shows up. And basically by the end, it's like, okay, now we need to go do this. So if you've never read any Madripoor comics, highly recommend getting on this. Again, it's Knights with a K, because, they're the Knights of Madripoor. Fantastic read. Absolutely love this and so excited to read more of it. The other comic I reviewed this week for Nerd Initiative was Count Crowley, and that is by David Dastmalchian, who you also might know. Oh,
yeah. He's awesome.
Yeah. So this it's a monster hunter. So he's done other different ones before that are all connected. It was like, reluctant monster hunter, and now we're on to amateur monster hunter. And it's exactly what it sounds like, a monster hunter. But this one woman who's the main character is also in AA, and her, best friend or her close friend, who is also a monster, recently was killed by another monster hunter. And this guy seems like he's worse than this other guy, but something big's coming and they don't know what's coming. And it's very campy and it's a lot of fun, and it's funny too. So, you get to chop off some monsters' heads. Who doesn't want to do that? And it's funny. And the only thing I've watched this week, other than the beginning of the Marvels, is Griselda. Have you heard of this on Netflix?
I have. I've seen it pop up on new or whatever, but I don't know a thing about it.
Did you ever watch the documentary years ago called Cocaine Cowboys, about the cocaine industry in Miami back in the day?
The documentaries that I watch are war documentaries, because I'm a very old man.
Well, I've always been very interested in the whole mafia kind of stuff and whatnot. And so the creators of Narcos have now done one on the godmother from Miami, which I remember hearing about her, because the first time I heard about her was in the documentary Cocaine Cowboys. So now they're actually telling her story, and it's very interesting. I'm not done yet. I think there's 6 or 7 episodes. I'm not certain, but Sophia Bush is actually playing her. And it took me a second, because they gave her a prostitute, she's drop dead gorgeous. So they did something to make her not look as drop dead gorgeous, like she's some prosthetic or something to make her look more like the actual person. But what's really interesting that I love about it is, so Pablo Escobar, it starts with a quote. He said, "The only man I was ever scared of was not a man." And he's referring, as Griselda. And it was the level of scary a woman has to get to make it in that industry is absolutely terrifying, the extreme she would go to. But what's really interesting is watching this and seeing her, I'm rooting for her, because these guys are such dicks to her. And it's I find myself rooting for this, criminal murderer person. But I'm loving it. If you liked Narcos, definitely go watch Griselda.
Nice.
So that's what I've been reading or watching.
Well, let's go into some news. What is some news that you have this week?
News. What news do I have? Moana 2 is coming to theaters this year.
Which kind of snuck up, I feel like, didn't it? It like there were rumors of it going to be a TV series, I thought, and now all of a sudden it's a movie coming out this fall.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of this stuff we see, and then I have no idea. But the Marvels, we just said, is on Disney Plus. Also, the making of the Marvels is on Disney Plus if you like watching those. Jurassic World 4 is coming out July 2nd. And
do we need another Jurassic World? Can we talk about this real quick? Is this something you're excited for?
No.
The last one was just terrible. It was about locusts. It wasn't even about dinosaurs. And they brought the cast back and they wasted them completely. And they've sucked the fun, in my opinion. Like, I don't want to be that this sucks person, but they've really sucked the fun out of this franchise.
I don't know. I'm indifferent to it all. I mean, the first one will always be classic and amazing on its own. And that will always be, Kaylee's first favorite movie. My last piece of news is Beetlejuice 2 will be out September 6th, which I am
excited for. Yeah. I am
perfect Halloween kickoff.
Which I'm kind of surprised that they didn't put Lisa Frankenstein out around the Halloween time, because I feel like this and Beetlejuice would have been like the classics for Halloween.
Well, and I think those things do better when they're released during the Halloween season.
I think Lisa Frankenstein's going to find its audience closer to that time, but I'm excited for Beetlejuice too. I'm wondering if we'll get a trailer for the Super Bowl. I know we're going to be getting a Deadpool 3 trailer, which we'll talk about coming up soon, because that's supposedly a 2.5 minute long trailer coming out. But some news that I have is that Pedro Pascal has been confirmed to be Mr. Fantastic by the SAG-AFTRA, and Matt Shackman shared it. So he's the director coming up of Fantastic Four. No idea when the rest of the cast is going to be announced or what's going on there. That maybe they're waiting for a big Marvel moment. Who knows? Percy Jackson.
Comic-Con?
Yeah. I mean, but it's weird because it's supposed to be coming out next year. So you would think that they would be.
I don't know. They've been super weird about Fantastic Four, I feel like.
They really have been super weird about it. And Blade's never going to come out at this point. So you know what? Aside from that, we've been getting a lot of Daredevil.
Maybe because he's Cottonmouth.
It's true. But seriously, have you like the amount of Daredevil leaks? People are just like filming the set.
To ignore them all.
I'm trying to as well. Shitty. It's just they're never going to
even want to see them. Like, who wants to see these leaks?
Everybody's a scooper these days. People got to scoop so they can get out there.
Saw it here first. So now this moment will be ruined for you when you watch it.
Forever. Well, Percy Jackson's confirmed for season 2. I'm excited about that one. No surprise there. It was like the most streamed Disney Plus show.
Yeah,
or
not
something like that. Taylor Swift, Eras Tour is coming to Disney Plus on March 15th with 5 bonus songs. I'm excited for that.
I have some friends who are losing their mind over that.
I'm excited. Disney paid $75 million for this, by the way.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's how much. It's absolutely insane. But hey, dude, I'm excited. Goosebumps season 2 has been confirmed as well, which I'm excited for because that was a severely slept on show. I thought it was pretty solid. It was a really good show. I'm a big Goosebumps fan, and the way they incorporated Goosebumps. Justin Long was great in it, for example. And then we also have Millie Alcock has been cast as Supergirl. You know her from House of Dragon. She is our Supergirl. They're going to be filming
House of Dragon.
Yes, I think they're actually going to be doing a table read starting next week in Atlanta before they start filming this movie. So things are moving there. The Acolyte has been confirmed to release in summer of 2024. That is set in the High Republic era of Star Wars, the Jedi, the Sith. This is going to be my entire personality for the summer, because also May the 4th is going to be the re-release in theaters of Phantom Menace. And I think we're going to be coming upon some really strong prequel revisionist history here. I think people are going to start appreciating the prequels a bit more. There's a lot of prequel hate. Me, I love the prequels, man. I'm a diehard.
Did you see that interview with Ewan McGregor right after MegaCon?
No, I did not. It was on Kimmel.
Yeah. So he was asking him about that, and Kimmel made a comment about for a while you didn't even want to talk about Star Wars, and he said, well, what's changed? He goes, if people change their mind, and he goes, no, I think it was the people who saw this movie as children are now grown-ups, and they like the movie as children, and now that they're grown-ups and have grown-up money and grown-up voices, people are listening to them. And he's like, and it's been so nice getting to hear good things about these movies when in the past they had really only heard bad things. So I thought that was very interesting. And George Lucas has always said, these are movies for kids.
They are. And dude, I love these movies, man. Revenge of the Sith is my all-time favorite Star Wars movie, besides of the trilogies, all the different trilogies. And Jake Lloyd, Ahmed Best, they got a lot of hate. And so I am really excited to come back. I kind of hope they bring back like the Pepsi cans that had all the characters on them. Like give me the Taco Bell line, like all that stuff again. But
I remember Taco Bell being covered.
It's Star Wars, man. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be weird. It's supposed to be out there. And yeah, man, the prequels they're bomb. They're bitching, dude. Go revisit these, especially in theaters. I'm going to be there. My last bit of news, though, is Knuckles is coming out, 6-episode series, Paramount Plus, April 26th. Idris Elba is playing Knuckles. And yeah, that's all we got. Now we're going to go ahead and go into our main topic when we will be back in just a moment to talk with Ryan Curtis. You know him previously on our show because he came on for Slums of Empire City. And then also he did some visual effects work for Supernatural. So we're going to chat that. We'll be back in just a moment. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Like I said, we have a really good guest today, a returning guest. Our friend Ryan Curtis is back to join us. He is going to give us an update on his comic book Slums of Empire City, as well as discuss some season 8 of Supernatural because he works some special effects behind the scenes, like we kind of talked about in our episode a long time ago. We'll link that one specifically in the bio if you want to go and read and listen to his comic, Slums of Empire City, because he has some really exciting things going on there. As always, I am drinking for this part of the episode a Cosmic Cowboy from Eiley,
but not
Brewing
what you would
Company.
think.
It's not. I drank the 2 Family Business that Lauren gave me, and I should have saved it for a good day. I should have rated her. I should have took some from your, fridge last weekend, but it's fine. I wasn't thinking. I also wasn't going to steal your beer, but this is from Eiley Brewing Company, and it is in Virginia. It's Cosmic Cowboy, a hazy wheat IPA coming in at 8.7%. And it doesn't give me much more information than that. It's a really good beer. There it is. Lauren, why don't you go ahead? What are you drinking?
I am drinking a fantastic stout from Family Business Beer Company called Grackle. It's a fantastic stout in a 12-ounce can, which I love so much because so many stouts are like so heavy and then so big. But this one is like so easy drinking, but it's also nice and light at the same time. And if only the font on this ABV were a little bit bigger, I could read what it says. It's either 5.9 or 8.9. I think it's 5.9.
Burial, actually.
I might have to look on Untapped or get a higher reading glasses prescription.
Oh boy. All right. Well, while Lauren goes to the eye doctors, Burial actually does really good stouts in their 12-ounce cans, which I really appreciate too. But
they barrel aged this one recently too. The barrel aged was phenomenal. Unfortunately, my cousin didn't like it, so she gave me her bottle because they were all on Tavor not long ago. Because I haven't been to the brewery in over 2 years.
Tabby gave it away?
It was Tabby, yeah.
Tabby, you could have given it to me. I would have appreciated it too.
So I only got back on Tavor. I fell off the Tavor wagon because of Family Business, and now I think I'm down to 1 Grackle and 1 soup juice. So I might have to hop back on there.
Oh, well,
I for one have never been to family. I've never been to family brewing.
Oh, really?
It exceeded my expectations. I will honestly say, like, when I first found out, Jensen had a brewery and obviously the beer made it into the show. As soon as they said Cosmic Cowboy, a local beer from Austin, I instantly went to Untapped, and it was a little below average at the time rating for an IPA. So when I went, I thought like, oh, it's just really popular because of the show. But then every beer was like, oh, this is a solid IPA. This is a solid Pilsner. This is a solid stout. And then I was talking to somebody at a bottle shop the next day, and I had mentioned it, and they're like, yeah, every time I have their beer, it gets better. So I think it's just that's very common for a brewery, and they just had some growing pains and had to form, fix the formula and everything. But I mean, every beer I've ordered from Tabor was phenomenal, and every beer I had there was it did get the Supernatural bump. I'm not gonna lie, but the brewery is also
their
gorgeous.
Beer is literally good. No, because you've given me their beer, and it's really good beer. I mean,
yeah,
you can tell there's a lot of like love and flavor and passion put in behind it, and it's one of those breweries that's more than just the brand and behind the name. So for sure,
And we don't have breweries like that in Florida outside of like Swamp Head and Gainesville. Like, it's gorgeous. It's on a huge property. Like, in Florida, there's no space for that.
No, not at all. But anyways, let's talk to our friend Ryan. Welcome back to the show.
Oh my God, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
It's been a while, man. Let's get an update first on your comic. But before we get there, you got to let us know. I know you showed us 2 amazing cans. So what are you starting off drinking right now?
This is it's called 20 Pounder. It's a double IPA from Driftwood, which is here in Vancouver. Driftwood does some amazing beers. They do some really, really tasty ones. And this is so cool looking that I had to pick it up. And it's so delicious that I'll probably pick it up again.
Yeah, nice. The can is awesome. I'm a sucker for can art, and that can is awesome. Canada low-key has some really good brews. I don't think.
Oh, yeah.
people really realize that Canada's doing really well beer wise.
Yeah.
I've had some of their beers primarily in the Toronto area. But
it's amazing. And I think it seems universal, at least sort of North American wide, that people are just making some really amazing beers. I was in Scotland, I don't know, God, how long? 8 years ago now. And not so good, not the best. Like their regular stuff. I went to Brewdogs and they were good, but they felt like the only small brewery they weren't even small, but like somebody who was doing proper craft beer in the North American style. Most of the beer over in Scotland, at least, was very watered down. It's like, oh, it's a good beer. Where's the rest of it?
It's like, that's great. Right. There's a hint of flavor, but
even if you have like an English IPA, it's very low ABV IPA. But I mean, if it weren't for beer in Europe, we wouldn't have craft beer because, our beer was so bad before. So I did look my beer up on Untapped. It's 8.9%, not 5.9%.
Nice.
So, which makes sense because it says Imperial Stout.
Well, Ryan, why don't you go ahead and give us an update? Last time we talked to you, we read and discussed the first couple issues of Slums of Empire City. Since then, you've had 3 issues come out, with the 5th one coming out tomorrow, right?
Yes, we got a brand new one coming out on February 9th, which will be issue 5 of Slums of the Empire City. So I keep calling them episodes. It's just stuck in my brain. Issue 4, 5, and 6 are completed and are released. 6 will be out next month. They're digital only releases, so we're just putting them out on Global Comics. So head over to Global Comics and read them there. It's a really nice interface, and it's just so easy to use. And the guys are so friendly. Really proud to have our stuff over there, and it's been great. And it would be nice to get more followers and feedback and conversations, but it's tough to get readers. So thank you for having me on and talk about the comic books, because they've been a labor of love. The last 2, these 3, we sort of shift slightly. So the first 3 were following Sadie the Goat on her adventures around the July 4th area. This one, we're following a guy named Dutch Herman at the same time period. So they're sort of overlapping stories. And we see sort of like the alternate side to that day from a different point of view, and you kind of have a few intersections here and there. So that's fun. And it's based on a real person. Dutch Herman was this roguish safecracker in New York at the time. And he was arrested, 50 times, and his brother went to jail, and there's all these folklore. And we actually have a photograph of the actual guy because he was in the rogues gallery that the New York police made. So it's fun to try to dig up all this old history and weave it into a fun narrative.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
One thing I really appreciate about the comic too is like the art was excellent. It's one of those things that like it has a realistic vibe to it. There's a lot of detail, a lot of colors and things like that. And then for like a period piece, you really nailed the language. It's one thing, like there is no stone left unturned, what you guys were doing. And that's one thing that I love for the comic. There's a lot of, research that went in behind this stories, and it's all based on true stories and things like that. And so I really, really love that as a history nerd.
Oh yeah, me too. That's the funnest part, is like going through all these old newspapers, and you can get sidetracked if you go back and read a newspaper from the time. The stories that they write are just bananas. Like the editorial comment on all this, legitimate journalism is hilarious. And they would just write about what felt like very small town things, like somebody stealing thread from the local tailors, and the police are on the case. And, these kind of levels of journalism were really fun and gave you a really visceral look into what it was like being there at the time. So when you're doing research and going through these, there's so many wonderful stories that I'd love to pull. I have a whole folder filled with snippets of these weird and wacky characters. So, just pulling those together and putting them into one big story is a lot of fun. The language stuff is tough. I didn't want it to be too over the top as far as, language from the day, because I think a lot of that can get lost for a reader. I wanted to try and keep it simple so that you didn't have to live in the 1800s to understand what they're saying.
No, it's great. And then your next issue comes out in the past. So are people able to purchase this issue still? Is it up for just a limited amount of time, or is this something that is going to be up there? Everybody can kind of go back, read the runs, and catch up.
Yeah, I'm leaving them. They're all there on Global Comics. People can go and have a read. If you want to wait, when we're done, I think 10 issues, they're all going to be compiled into one solid book that we can put out in stores. But it's so hard to distribute, especially a floppy, just because it's it's only worth so much, and to get it from
comics in
point A to
general
B
is
costs a fortune.
Yeah, it's so hard
Shipping is
to.
insane.
Comics has kind of like a marketing crisis almost right now, because like there's a lot of really good stories. There's so many good stories that are out there today that aren't superheroes. And I think the biggest thing that's hurting necessarily is a lot of people feel as though superheroes is what comics are. Like they think comic books, they think superheroes. That's not the case. We have seen so many good stories, such as one taking place in New York City, set in the past, that is fantastic. Or, there's been other ones coming from like the bigger names, right? But superheroes are not comic books. There's so many good stories that are not just superheroes. And I think that once we figure out a way to break that stereotype, people might start paying attention a little bit more.
Right. Well, and that stereotype started because it didn't used to be like that. Like girls and boys equally read comic books, and there were so many different genres. And go back and read a comic book documentary, and they talk about how they just started targeting boys, and that's when they went full superhero. But hey, girls like superheroes too. But I mean, we doing this podcast and interviewing people like you as far as independent creators, we've met so many, come across so many amazing stories. And even the superhero independent ones we've come across, it's been such unique takes that I never saw coming. But in doing this, because you said you had Sadie the first 3, now you're doing another person. Are you going to be focusing on another character before you wrap up the 10 issue run?
Yes, Walt Whitman.
Walt Whitman. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, the next 3 episodes are all Walt Whitman's point of view. Who, spoilers, not spoilers, but I'll give you a little tease. He's hired by a rich family to try to find their child, a kid named Charlie Ross, who was kidnapped. Charlie Ross is a real kid that was kidnapped, and they sort of say it was the first kidnapping case that made national headlines. And so the family begs Walt to go to New York to try to help find this little kid, because Walt had a background in investigative journalism and is quite familiar with New York. And the family sort of alludes to they want him because the polite way of saying, sort of travels in different circles, i.e. homosexual.
Yeah.
Or that's the assumption at the time. So they, for some reason, think that he's going to know people, and obviously he doesn't know people, but he does. He goes along with it anyway. So he goes to New York. We sort of touch on Walt Whitman's prejudice towards Irish people, which if you go back and sort of look at his work, he really softens on the Irish immigrant over time. But in his earlier days, he's very bullish against the Irish. He thinks they're terrible people and says a whole bunch of terrible things. And then as he gets older, he comes to understand, the plight of the immigrant and what they've gone through and where they're coming from and why things are the way that they are for those people. So sort of shoehorning our story into that as he meets Sadie's family and sort of starts to understand the Irish a little bit better.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things about reading your comic, because it's been, I think, 1.5 years since we had you on, but I remember loving the historical.
I actually still have the hardcover.
The fiction.
Yeah, I still, when I just moved to Virginia, and when I was putting all my comics out of the boxes and kind of like trying to get them set up, I actually pulled the issues of Slums of Empire City out, and I was like, oh, dude. And so it was just one of those funny things. Like I still got the copies of, the first couple of issues, and
that's awesome. Thank you.
It's exciting, man. So I hope people take the time to go and read these. They're fun. If you love history, if you love adventure, they're there. The art is amazing. The writing is even better. Don't let us sit here and just tell you how amazing it is. I want you to go find out for yourself. So in the link of this episode, go ahead, follow that link. You can go ahead and check all of Ryan's work out. But we also are going to bridge that now into some Supernatural chat. So I've been going through, as everybody knows, watching Supernatural, and Ryan actually did some work for the visual effects. So Ryan, what all did you work on within the Supernatural realm? We'll start there to kind of get some background into you and your amazing works, because you didn't just work on Supernatural, you worked on a lot of things.
Yeah. Since then, well, before then, but also since then, yeah. I came onto that show as, I think it was called an on-set visual effects coordinator, I think we called it, which meant that I was assisting the visual effects supervisor in shooting all of the cool scenes that needed to have visual effects in them. So what a supervisor will do when you're on set is, first there's planning for weeks on end for an episode. So when the episode says, okay, and then Dean stabs the demon and the demon fritzes out and then dies, that becomes a visual effect. the stabbing, probably the demon fritzing out, and then maybe even the death, depending on what's happening. So then we need to break that down and say, okay, well, stabbing, what do we need? We need this special knife that's got a plunger on it so that he can actually stab the guy. Or do we need a real knife and we don't see the stab that happens? Or do we need a rubber knife? Or do we need blood on the knife? So there's a million sort of things that have to happen and conversations that have to happen. And then you go through that and you plan, and then you get there on the day to shoot it. You've already had your conversations with the director and the first ADs and the stunt coordinators and the special effects coordinators and the props department as to all those things that you need. And then you talk to the actors because they should know, and then say, oh, demon guy who's just here for the day, this is what happens when a demon gets stabbed, and they light up from the inside, and it's, comes from their chest, and, we see it through their face. So it sort of feels like being shocked when you're stabbed. You sort of get shocked and then you fall down and you're dead. And you keep your mouth open, keep your eyes open so we can see them and make them glow, and then fall over and die. And when he stabs you, this is the knife that he's going to use, and it's got a plungery thing. And then the stunt coordinator would walk them through that, probably give them padding, and then stab. And then they practice that a few times. And then if it's a stunt person, then they've done it a million times. If it's just a day player actor, he'll put in a pad for them to fall onto and that sort of stuff. And then they do that, and that's step one. We've shot it.
Just for step one.
Yeah. And then step two is they actually edit the entire episode together. So we shoot on that show was 8 days. So 8 days of at least 12 hours a day.
Wow.
Of shooting. And then an editor takes all of that footage and condenses it down to 42 minutes. So it could be that thing that we planned for and prepped for and shot doesn't even make it into the movie, right? I mean, we call it a movie, into the TV show. Mm-hmm. Cutting room floor, you've heard that term before. So if it does, then we need to look at it, and then we sit with the post-production supervisor in the States. Usually I think he was in LA, and the director sometimes, and a supervising producer like Phil Segrisha or somebody like that. We look at the shots and we say, okay, great, this is exactly how we planned it, no problems. Or, actually, when this guy gets shot, we did a take where he did this thing and fell over. Let's use that if you guys are okay with it. They say, yep, okay, great. They send us the individual shots. So in that scenario that I've just aligned, there might be a shot of Dean pulls out a knife and we see a close-up of the knife. And maybe it's not the real knife. Maybe it's the knife with the fake springy thing. Mm-hmm. Then we need to put a blade in there in visual effects. So that's one shot. The second shot would be, maybe there's a close-up of the knife getting stabbed in. We need to add a blade to that. That's the second shot. Third shot is the demon fritzing out, doing his thing. And then the fourth shot, maybe he falls out of frame and we're on Dean, and Dean still has the knife. There's another one. So there's 4 separate visual effects shots that we need to take. We bring them into our system. We hand them out to the artists. On Supernatural specifically, we had artists that worked in-house. So there's actually 10 visual effects artists right there. We were actually in trailers right outside the shooting stage. We had these big, long, construction type trailers. And then they would just get busy and they would add in a blade. Me on set, my job would be to say it was a special knife and we had the real knife. I would make sure that they get a shot with the real knife so that we can literally Photoshop the blade from that and put it into the shot. That's quite literally what we do. Then we go through iterations, and so that's step 2. Step 3 is actually approving the shot. So every day we would sit down and look at all the work that the artists have handed in for the day. That needs to change. We need to do this, add more light here, add more glow, add, this needs to go longer. It's not going to the sound, that sort of thing. And review that. There's a big back and forth process that happens. A shot might go back and forth 4 or 5 times. Then, okay, it's final. And then step 4 is we actually package all those up and then deliver them back to editorial, who then cuts them in the movie. So that's visual effects in a nutshell.
So when you said 8 days, but you said you plan weeks ahead of time as well. So from beginning to end, how long is that amount of time on average for an episode?
I think we had 2 weeks per episode in post to do the shots.
Wow.
That sounds about right. So yeah, there's about, I think, 7 days of prep, 8 days of shooting, 2 weeks in post.
So do any of you see family or friends while you're filming this?
Yeah, it's rare. I mean, 12-hour days are no joke. especially if you're on the other side of the city, and then it takes you an hour and a half to get there and an hour and a half to get home, and then
now you've obviously worked on other shows, and I think Supernatural is very unique in more than one way. One of them being that it's a CW show, but it's not your cliche CW show, especially because it started before the Arrowverse started. So compared to, working for AMC and having the budget of AMC and having the acceptable gore and being able to say things like shit, how does that differ for working with CW versus a show like, AMC, like The Walking Dead?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know all the background from where I was, but sort of the vibe that I got on that show was we were the little show that could. We were the show that was kind of cheap enough that they're just like, fine, just let it go for another season. We don't have something else to put on the air. Just roll Supernatural again. And that just kept happening for 15 seasons. It's what it seems like. Everybody sort of kept the budget down. I mean, I'm talking out of school. I don't know what the actual budgets were, but to me, it sort of felt like that. I didn't feel like we cheaped out on anything. Like the sets were amazing. Jerry Wanick's work on all those sets are just like, I'm thinking about the Men of Letters set. And is it season 9 that Osric's character Kevin is in like a boat?
Yes.
Is he hiding on the boat?
Yeah.
Yes. Like that whole ship was just built on stage, like in a week. There was nothing there, and you come back a week later, and there's a fully dressed interior of a ship, and it was like, oh my god, and it looks old.
I loved Kevin too, man. Kevin was such an unsung hero of the
everybody
show.
loved Kevin.
All these things for the first time. I'll get like texts like, "Oh, they did Bobby wrong."
I'm just sitting there like texting Lauren. I'm like, "Oh my god!"
And so often I have to keep my mouth shut. He's like, "R.I.P. Gabriel." I'm like, no.
Yeah. It's so sad. Everybody loved Kevin, and everybody was so upset when he died.
When he doesn't even know how tragic his story is yet. He hasn't finished the show.
Oh boy.
Does Kevin come back? I thought Kevin was dead in see, I never finished watching the show. I stopped.
There's more to Kevin in season 15.
Is there? Oh, I didn't know.
Wow, they bring Kevin back. They couldn't just leave Kevin.
I didn't say they brought him back. I just said there's more to him.
Is it Osric playing Kevin?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because sometimes they bring back a character.
Like Meg or somebody. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, and Osric's so sweet. Have you guys met Osric?
No, I would
he's lovely.
I've met Crowley and I've met Felicia Day, and that's it. I'm not big on I haven't been to a Supernatural con yet. So there's one coming to Orlando in November. So I intend to go to that. But I'm also not big on I guess I feel awkward going up to them and whatnot at the cons, and my husband does not appreciate me spending money to take pictures with people.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I mean, some people do, right? That's their whole they budget for that for the year, and that's their.
And after MegaCon, I've seen some amazing pictures, like the things that people come up with. I saw something
like left MegaCon. They took a picture with Hayden, Ewan, Tom, like all these.
And they have
that's like $3,000 worth. I'm like, my wife would murder me.
Yeah,
but I saw the best picture I saw from, because I follow a lot of Supernatural channels in the cons, and I saw this girl who was Asian, and she was inside a Busty Asian Beauties magazine. And in the picture, Jared was pulling Jensen back in the picture.
That's amazing.
That was like kudos to that girl for making that happen.
We had to stop using the Busty Asian Beauties. That was a big thing.
Really?
Yeah, and I think in season 10 they're like, we don't think this is appropriate any longer. It's like, why?
Did they ever give a reason for that?
Well, just because it was objectifying Asian women, presumably.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Huh. I'm quite sure. I hope I'm not making that up. But yeah, I remember, I think we had to block out an issue at one point. Like, had to mask it with something else.
I feel like Dean's character, though, was less sex focused later seasons than he was younger seasons, which
Story of my life. Tell me about it.
But so were you big into the show of Supernatural before you got started on it, or for you when you got started?
Not at all. In fact, it was so weird. So I started season 8. So season 7 hadn't completed airing when I started in season 8. I'd never heard of the show. Up until about 6 months before I started on it, only because the place that I was working had a Supernatural poster on the wall because they had done some visual effects for it. So I remember looking at it being like, oh my God, look at those pretty boys. That show looks so lame.
Dude, that's why it took me 10 years to get into it.
Right? It's true. It's like, I don't want to watch a show with underwear models,
It's like a romance novel.
Exactly. Pretending to be deep and philosophical. And then, when I was offered the job on it, I was like, okay, I better go check out the show and watch season 7. I'm like, oh, these guys are funny. Like, these guys are acerbic and smart asses, and they're actually funny. They're nice to look at, but they're funny. Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
See, that's how I felt too. For me, I guess it just felt like something really cheesy, and I was just like, I love
think
cheesy.
we all did.
But I was just, I don't even, like something about the posters originally. I was just like, I don't know about that. And Lauren kept talking about it. And I was like, all right. One night I sat down on the couch. I was like, I scrolled Netflix. I went through Hulu.
Well, and his wife
Disney
watches
Plus.
it, but Carrie had stopped at like season 10, and her and I were talking about it at a Fan X because she came with me to the Ketch and Crowley panel, and she's like, I need to finish this show. And then so now they're rewatching it, or she's rewatching it with him. But that's the whole thing is like, I was like, I was at a con. I'm like, why do I keep seeing this supernatural stuff? Why? This is a CW show. It looks very cheesy. I don't get it. And then I was pregnant and miserable. And I was like, well, there's 10 seasons of this. Let me give it a shot. I feel like crap anyways.
Yeah. It's funny because at that time it was 10 seasons where.
I think I started it in 2016. So I think it was I think season 12 was the first one I watched live.
Yeah.
But I was shocked at how funny it was and how scary it was and how, perverted it is too.
I was very surprised by how, like, I guess adult themed it was in a lot of ways. And I guess like when it comes down to effects, I didn't realize like how gory at sometimes it got, it gets pretty dark.
So did you ever, that's a good question though, going with that, with how gory it does get, were there ever special effects where you were like had to pull it back or like, make that chopping off the vamp's head a little less excessive?
When I got an opportunity, Mark Malosh, my supervisor, head of our department, gave me an opportunity, which was very, very generous of him, to supervise an episode in season 10. Maybe 9. It's the episode where the kids go to college, and the redhead girl is stalked by a guy who's part electricity. Does that sound right?
Oh my goodness! I'm just thinking Electro and Emma and Gwen Stacy.
Oh jeez.
No, she's a.
Oh yes. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's the Ghost in the Machine quote.
Yes.
And it's the girl that's now in Gen V.
Which girl is in Gen V?
There's the one girl in Gen V who can control people is in 2 episodes of Supernatural.
Oh, really?
Was it with the truck?
Yeah, that's the one where the truck drives off the bridge.
I think she's the girlfriend in the truck. I could be wrong. There's so many episodes that they reuse actors, but I think she's the girlfriend that the navigation tells her to get out of the car.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Is that the one, or is that
I'll have to go back and watch that. No, it's the same episode for sure. Okay. There's a scene where a kid turns on the stereo and it gets so loud that his head explodes.
Yeah.
So I set up this gag where we had the special effects makeup artist come in, and we set up a face that was very similar, and and by we I mean the special effects makeup artist put these, I think they're called finger condoms. They're just like a tiny little rubber thing in the eye sockets. And then we just pumped in fluid until they exploded in a white goo.
Whoa.
And so we put that on the kid's face, and his eyes just get big, and then they go pop, and then all the goo runs down the side of his face. And it was awesome. But it was just too over the top. And I remember the guys, Phil and Todd and everybody in post was just on the phone, just like screaming like, but they're like, it's too much. It's too much. We're going to have to pull it back. And there wasn't very many of that. I think violence towards women stuff would get flagged sometimes ahead of time, right? Sometimes it's during prep and they've read the script and they're like, no, let's change it up and do it differently. Generally, if it was violence against a demon or somebody who wasn't human, then it was okay. But if it was against another human, then there was more issues, if I remember correctly. And that's sort of common. That is sort of common.
Interesting, because obviously like the demons are played by humans, so like everybody on the set for the most part is human, and it's so funny that like no, but this person is a demon in the show, so they're not real in our mind. But
then you start having these somebody out there is having a conversation with a lawyer saying, "Well, you got to understand they're a meat suit." So that means that the human is dead.
And
they open their mouth, and the smoke comes out, and they go away.
The funnest thing about working this business is the weird conversations you have.
Oh, I don't.
Well, a human head wouldn't actually tumble like that. It would be more like, when somebody gets it's just horrible.
Do you have like the weirdest conversation you've ever had in regards to effects? Do you have one thing that sticks out to you?
Oh God, what would it be? I don't remember specifically, but I remember a lot of conversations about the guy with his heart thumping out of his chest. That cartoon
Matt, have you seen the Looney Tunes episode yet?
I think I have. Yeah.
No, you have or you haven't?
I think I have.
Yeah,
you seen the Looney Tunes? He shoots the gun, bang. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna interrogate the cat. Okay.
Yeah.
That scene's hilarious.
Yeah, that was from that was the guy that was from MASH. I don't remember his name now. Somebody. Names. Oh, who was it? The writer just tweeted about that yesterday.
The psychic dude was
Edlund. Edlund. No, was it? This is the one where he goes to the old age home.
Yeah, because the guy has like the psychic abilities where he's like creating these things. Yeah. Right. I've seen this one.
So Supernatural was made by Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers made it for CW. CW licensed it from Warner Brothers. So we're going to do this episode that takes place in a cartoon land. And so we're like, well, obviously we want, Bugs Bunny type cartoon stuff. So let's, Warner Brothers is Bugs Bunny. Let's license, but they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't license Bugs Bunny to be used in Supernatural. So we had to go out and get Woody Woodpecker. It was a Woody Woodpecker cartoon that we had to use. So strange.
Interesting. That's like, we own this guy, but you can't use him. Like, it's so weird how that plays out.
Right,
yeah, go pay Tex Avery money.
Scooby-Doo episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, at least I got a good Bugs Bunny joke. What does he say? So we're looking for a bug-rabbit hybrid. That episode, so, there's like a handful of episodes that when you talk to somebody, changing channels, French mistake. That one is so underrated. That is a fantastic episode and easily in my top 10, 100%. That and Mint Condition are both very underrated.
Which one was Mint Condition?
Mint Condition. Oh, I think it was season 14. It's the one that takes place. It starts in the comic book shop. It's Panthro is the little figurine. Panthro like attacks the guy, and it turns out like the owner of the comic shop who has since passed. It's the time to slice and dice. Oh. Now, I know Matt hasn't watched that one yet.
I haven't watched it. Well,
yeah,
you're gonna love that one.
I stopped after 10.
Well, and then there's a statue of Red Hood, and then of course they cut to Jensen because he was Red Hood.
He's Red Hood and he's Batman.
Funny. Well, I think at the time I don't think he was Batman until the Long Halloween.
It wasn't at the time.
That's
So in the comic book shop, though, what's funny is it's all DC. Like you don't really see any Marvel because it's CW. I always think that's funny that you get all the DC, whatnot. But
I'm surprised they didn't do like a Green Lantern or a Green Arrow joke or anything.
Oh yeah,
they really should have.
That would have been great.
Flash. Yeah.
Well, at least Baby did make an appearance in Legends of Tomorrow.
It's true.
Like
really?
The actual car. Like Sarah and the Legends stumble upon the car and they're filming Supernatural. Like the show exists in the DC universe.
When I left Supernatural, I went to go work on Lucifer, the first season of Lucifer.
Oh, yeah.
And we were shooting right next door. Literally, it was like right next door. I used to park here, and then I moved over 10 feet, and I was parking there. And so we would talk back and forth with the Supernatural crew a bunch. And that was when they were sort of bringing Lucifer back into their story. And I remember they put a joke about Lucifer. He's like, what am I going to do, move to LA and fight crimes?
In the cage.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I showed that to Tom Ellis when we were on set, and he cracked up. He's like, oh, my God, that's too funny. Because who does that shit? It's just Supernatural. Right. Nobody else does crazy shit like that.
Off the wall.
I mean, yeah. And so meta with, some of the stuff that they've just called. I mean, they call out their fans. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
So with the, because you worked a total of like 24 episodes is what your IMDb page said.
No, I mean, I worked for 3 seasons, so 75 episodes. 3
seasons. Yeah. So what was the episode that you would say you had the most fun working on?
Oh, the most fun.
You could also just say scene.
Episode 200 was the musical episode where it was the high school musical type episode. That one was pretty cool, actually, because I've never worked on a musical before or since. So that was pretty cool seeing that. I think Phil Segrisha shot that one too and did a really great job. That was probably pretty up there. But it's always episodes where we get to go to crazy places and shoot too, right? Like one episode we had to shoot at the sewage place. Like who gets to go shoot at a sewage place? You know what I mean? It's not pretty, but it's weird to be able to go and do that, or all the old mansions. Like old, $8-10 million houses in the rich part of the city, shooting in those things. A lot of sitting in the woods, though, to be fair. There's a lot of sitting in the woods at night in the rain on that show.
I have noticed a lot of rain, and I hear that a lot of. I've listened to a few of the Then and Now podcasts, and it's a lot of rain.
A lot of cold nights sitting in the rain, and Jared and Jensen think it's hilarious at 2 a.m. to be goofing off, and everybody's like, "We want to fucking go home. Please stop goofing around." It's going to be funny on the gag reel. Not funny now.
Well, speaking of the gag reels, there's a lot of like practical jokes played behind the scenes and things like that. Were you ever a victim of any of the practical jokes or things of that nature?
No, not really. Once in a while, they would catch you doing something dumb on camera, or the first AD, Johnny Mack, who just passed away last year. Actually, it's very sad. A few really awesome people from that show have passed away now. It's kind of heartbreaking. Johnny would do stuff like I'd go in there for to put a knife in camera, and it's always awkward when you're standing there in front of the camera because although no one's going to see it, the editors are like you're still on camera.
People are still going to see awkward. It. Yeah,
someone's going to.
Everybody looks beautiful, and then there's you.
Well, they all just did hair and makeup.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and but yeah, then you like put them in, and you go on and be like, "Oh wait, we didn't get that. Go back," and then you're back in. "Oh no, we didn't get it." And you just keep going back and forth until you're like, "Oh, I know what you're doing." So there was always stuff like that. Yeah, just it was a pretty cool vibe on that show most of the time, to be honest.
It seems like it really does seem like a fun kind of set. Can you walk us through what it took to behead? So this is one of the things my wife, all right, I don't know why this for me. I sit there every time I see like a vampire or somebody get beheaded. My instinctual phrase is, well, that happened too easy. You're not just swiping a machete through somebody's neck and they're dead.
Unless it's Michonne's katana.
Right. So what can you tell us kind of that went behind the scenes for you guys as far as like the beheading scenes of vampires or things like that?
So from our point of view, and this was a few years ago, so things are a little bit easier now than they were then, budgetarily and technologically. But so the way we would shoot a beheading is, I'm going to get a little technical, but I'll just get through it. I think you'll follow. So what we would do is we'd have what's called a static camera for the most part, which is just a camera that's on a tripod, say. Technically, it would be a dolly, but nobody touches it. It stays there. So if that camera doesn't move, you can step people in and out in different takes and then just merge them into one frame later. Do you know what I mean? Like you sort of literally cut down the middle and add Jensen's and then this guy's here. So one of my favorite beheadings that we did was the first one we did, which was in the first episode, I think, of 8.
So in Purgatory.
8.
I think we actually talked about this a little bit last time you were on here. Yeah, that was a gruesome one.
Yeah, where they cut off the demon's head against the tree. So that was sort of the first one we did. So in order to do that, we need one frame of the vampire. So not one frame, but one take of the vampire by himself. Jensen could be, like Dean could be in the frame at the same time. So there's 2 ways to do it. You can either put nothing in Dean's hand and then add a blade later on. So if there's nothing in his hand, he stands there, the vampire's there, he swings as if he's going to chop the neck off or chop the head off the neck. And then the actor who's playing the vampire will then give his head a twist like this, and then he'll just fall out of frame. And then we get what's called a clean plate. So everybody steps out and we just get the background by itself. So that way, when we add the blade in, boom, we add the line on the neck. And then when he does this, we continue his head falling off. So we literally cut out his head, put it on a fake head. Sometimes we would do takes where we'd have a fake head that falls. And then it falls out of frame. We paint in the rest of the tree that was behind him because his head is now missing. So we use our clean frame to paint in the rest of this. We added something called, I think Mark would call it like bologna for the neck stump. And it's just meat. Like it's indistinguishable meat. There's no trachea. There's no, epiglottis or tongue. It's just meat. And it's just a meat disc. And we would literally just paint that in where his neck would be. And Bob's your uncle. So the head goes boom, and then the body falls out. So sometimes we'll get him to go head this way and then body falls this way. And then that way you sort of have that separation. And then when we compile all that stuff together, it looks like his head has been chopped off.
That's interesting with the knife, because I never would have thought that a knife was added later.
Right. So you could do it the other way to do it. And this all depends on how the director wants to shoot it is So the vampire actor does his action, boom, he falls out of frame, and then we get Jensen to step in with a blade, a real blade, in the same position. He swings at a mark and hits a mark on a tree, and then you can sort of marry those two together where his blade would go through. So sometimes it's six of one, half dozen of the other. Sometimes you need to go a certain direction depending on what's going to be easier for the artist and also what the director wants to see.
Was there ever like an effect that you guys had to create that you just could not do, and so it had to go somewhere else, or was everything pretty much like, oh, we got this? What was the hardest thing for you guys to create on set?
I think the hardest are going to be creatures. I think in those photos that I sent you guys, Lauren, if you saw, there was a big cutout of the dog.
Yes.
Hellhound, I think it was.
Yes.
Because animating a creature is a really special skill.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a lot of generalists on our team, so guys that could do a little bit of everything. But you don't want a generalist doing like a really hero animal that has to walk, even if it's mostly see-through. So for some reason, I think we may have gone outside for that one for an animator. I can't remember now. Maybe not. But that was a big challenge. It's that thing, or the flying monkeys in the Oz episode.
Oh my God, that episode was so much fun. My mom.
Did you enjoy that?
Oh, my mom's a massive Wizard of Oz fan.
Oh.
And so when we went to that one, and Felicia Day and all the entire crew, it took me a minute to realize what it was. But yeah, that episode to me, because it in that book, it's Tanis from Letterkenny, and so I like one of my favorite things about Supernatural.
Oh, is it really? Are you
Yes,
fucking serious?
yes.
How did I not know that?
Yes,
shit, yeah.
I live for moments where I'm sitting there watching Supernatural. I'm just like, that's so and so.
That's what he kept doing that when he first started watching. And he's like, this person's from Letterkenny. And
yeah, we got Stuart from Letterkenny, or
Right.
and now like Tanis played in that episode
shit,
particularly.
yeah, of course.
So to me, like that was a fun episode. My mom is a massive Wizard of Oz fans. Yeah. And so I that one is one of my standout episodes. Believe it or not, for that reason, because the family connection that I have to it. And so it's fun to get to see you kind of be like, yeah, this was really hard to create, and now it's like, it's crazy.
Do you remember the Frankenstein episode, the family Frankenstein?
Yeah, I don't
family?
think he's. Are you there? He's probably right around there.
I'm on
Dean has the
season
mark.
10, episode 8 right now. So
you're probably really close to that.
I'm
Really
probably
close
close.
to it.
I'm
Yeah.
super close. Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the episodes that some people didn't like, but I really thought that story was very interesting, and I loved how they brought that in.
I liked it too. Yeah, I thought it was fun. I thought all the actors were great. But one of the young guy on that is Connor Price. You know who that is?
No.
If you're ever on TikTok, you've probably seen his rap videos come up. He does he always does TikToks where he's in the room
younger
and
brother?
then he walks into the room. Yeah, and then at the end he gets shot. Dean shoots him in the forehead.
Yeah, I hated that.
But he's an amazing rap artist. Like he's like world class.
Okay.
He does a spin the globe thing and he picks a spot on the globe and then raps.
Oh my gosh, my husband showed me his videos before.
That's
I haven't
Same
seen
guy.
these.
I did not put that together.
I didn't either until I was sitting there one day and he said something about Supernatural. I'm like, oh, yes, I remember his face now. Like he looked super familiar, but I couldn't place it. I'm like,
his episode. I mean, it was heartbreaking with him, and that was something he wouldn't have done if he didn't have the mark. Wow!
That's
my God, that's so funny.
Yeah. It's really cool.
See, Supernatural's connected to everything.
It is.
It really is. Which we did start a 4 Degrees of Supernatural on our podcast.
Yeah.
For that reason, because I would so often be sitting there texting Lauren being like, hey, this person was in this movie. This person, like Aldous Hodge, who just got done playing Hawkman in the DC universe. Mm-hmm. He played in a couple episodes of Supernatural.
Season 2. That was early on.
Well, he was more recently. That's how I figured out that was him. And then, of course, Gordon was in This Is Us
Panther.
And Black Panther. And so one of my favorite things is just to go through.
Martha. So Bella and John Winchester are Martha and Thomas Wayne.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
In the Ben
Dark
Affleck.
Knight, or the Batman v
Affleck.
Superman. Yes. The Affleck. Which, love those movies. But
and that's just going by actors. Like you start going by like cast or like crew, you're connected to like everyone from everything.
Well, you've mentioned Phil Secretia a couple times, and obviously that's The Boys.
Mhm.
So I feel like when you were talking about the scene where, you had to hold back with the eyes exploding, he's got to love that he doesn't have to hold back anything now.
Totally. Yeah, that's Stefan Fleet's the supervisor on that one, who I know Stefan, we worked on a show called Timeless. I helped him out on the pilot of Timeless. I came in and we sort of not really kept in touch, but
Kripke one, right?
That was a Kripke one as well. Yeah, that's where he started working with Kripke, and then he pulled him over to The Boys. Oh, that show's so good.
It's so good. Because I was already reading it and watching it when I found out Jensen was going to be Soldier Boy. And right away I was like, there's no way Kripke's going to do the comic book version of Soldier Boy if Jensen's playing him. Like, there's no way. And does
he start naked in that too?
No, he his pants naked in that, and then Butcher kills him. So I was like, this is not going to be the same Soldier Boy. I feel like Soldier Boy could not be more, because we actually got to interview Derek Robertson, who is one of the co-creators of the comic book, The Boys.
Oh, cool.
And we talked about how different they are. He said Huey is that was the one he said is the most accurate to the comic, which made sense to me. But a lot of the characters are very accurate to the comic. But like Soldier Boy, like when he got cast, I'm like, plus there's more than one version of Soldier Boy. It's kind of like, taking up the mantle kind of thing. But the similarities I feel like are how when Paul Reiser's character is like, he didn't storm Normandy, he didn't do this, he was a poster boy. It was kind of like that, where like the Soldier Boy in the comics didn't do shit. He was just a poster boy. They're obviously mocking Captain America, but outside of that, I mean, Soldier Boy was still a badass. Yeah. So, or maybe it's just my skewed, terrible.
They were going to make a film version. I'm sure you probably all know this stuff. A film version of The Boys 10 years ago or so.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and you know who was going to be cast as Huey? Simon Pegg.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because they drew The Boys was really originally drawn for Simon Pegg.
Garth based him on Simon Pegg, and then Simon Pegg was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" And then because he told us the whole story of them, they're like, "You need to get permission from him for us to move forward or whatever."
And then they did. And he was probably like, "Fuck yes, let's do this."
Right.
I love that they made him his dad. It's such a fun nod to the comics.
That totally is, and his accent just makes me laugh every time when he does it.
But Huey could not look more different than his comic book counterpart, but he acts exactly the same.
Oh
yeah, it's funny. But shout out to Jack Quaid. I know he's a nepo baby, but he's a good actor, man.
I did not know he was a nepo baby at all. I didn't know that until
Dennis
like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I didn't put it together, and he does great. He seems really down to earth from what I've seen in interviews and stuff. He seems really cool.
Yeah,
that show's awesome. So I've been rewatching it through the eyes of somebody else who's on YouTube reacting. So they're reacting for the first time, and so I'm watching their reactions. I'm like, oh, I know what's coming. This is gonna be great. Yeah, watching reaction videos is my favorite thing to do.
I was just gonna say I love telling people that the comic book is worse than watching their jaw drop.
Well, like, so working in this space where you get to create the things that we all get to watch, right? Like Lauren and I just get to show up and we get to watch. Does that make you kind of like? Do you still make it a point to go out there and watch like a lot of the things that are being pushed out? Or are you like, oh man, or is it one of those things like when you watch, you're like, oh, thinking about the things that go on behind the scenes and just take you out of the moment kind of deal? Yeah,
both. It has to be really good for me to stay in the moment. Like it has to True Detective, the new True Detective season.
Oh, I'm loving that whole series is so good.
And I'm in it. Like I'm really in it when I'm watching it. Sometimes jumping it sometimes, but I really enjoyed it. So it's hard. It's really hard because as a creator, I want to create. So watching stuff that's already been created, I just get really anxious. Why am I not creating? Yeah. Why am I not doing that? Why am I watching this when I should be out making stuff? And then I just go onto TikTok and then don't make stuff.
You just
can relate. I can relate to this. Yes.
Society.
Yeah. As somebody who like wants to write comic books, I'm like, why am I not doing this? And I'm like, I'm just going to go and watch videos as to everybody else is doing good things.
Yeah, exactly. So that, but my wife hates watching movies with me. I mean, she works in the business as well, but she's not on set. So she does set deck. She's working on Last of Us season 2 right now. And she's really enjoying that, but she'll look at it for set dressing and how do they do this room? How do they, layer the dressing and stuff? Whereas I'm thinking of it more of a technical basis, I guess, as to how how the visual effects are done and dialogue and that sort of stuff.
She's like,
So it
Ryan,
doesn't
just
matter
shut up and
what-
enjoy the movie.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
honestly, it doesn't matter what career you go into. Something like Matt can't watch military stuff without critiquing it. I'm an attorney, so I can't watch law shows without critiquing it. It's
Totally.
so we're all screwed in some way or another as far as
Yeah,
entertainment
exactly.
goes.
You can only watch the opposite of that, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I can't
but
watch
that's what makes-
any legal dramas. They are the worst.
Yes.
Unless it's my
anything-
cousin Vinny.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Anytime there's anything that's like military related, I'm like, well, that wouldn't happen. Or like, why is like this dude's uniform messed up, this thing, that or the other? And it's just one of those, God, just shut up. Just like enjoy what's happening on screen right now.
There was
It takes you out.
Yeah.
a guest star on Supernatural. I won't say what season, that was a quote unquote Marine in his previous life, and now he's an actor. And he was a bit of, I don't know, my personal opinion, he was a bit of a blowhard and a bit of a,
It's the Marines. They usually are.
yeah, but usually they're pretty cool, and this guy's kind of not. Anyways, came to set, had a gun in his hand, and was like teacupping the bottom of it and like holding it not in a proper manner. And I remember Jensen was like, "The fuck is this guy? He's supposed to be a Marine." And then he was like, "Stunt double, you can do all the scenes here because this is not feeling right."
Are they
Just
the
had
crayon
a weird
eaters?
feeling.
Yes. The Marines eat the crayons. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We have a local brewery who was opened by veterans, and they
Yeah.
named a beer the Crayon Eater.
Nice. That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah, I'm in the Air Force, so to me, I'll talk
Right.
shit about because I have the cushest life, right? But that's hilarious to be like,
I won't be talking shit about any of them. I have no right to
Dave, I
talk shit
haven't
about
earned the
any of
right.
them.
He was holding the gun wrong, like stuff like that's
Yeah.
hilarious to me. It's like, okay, bud, especially the guys who are all about like them big blow, that kind of stuff. So I
Yeah,
love hearing stories like
you're
that.
an elite special forces type person, and you can't hold a gun right. I don't know about that. That
Yeah,
smells like
exactly.
could smell like something to me. But anyways,
Somebody
that's
who wrote
just
a
my
book.
dumb opinion. I don't really know anything about it.
No,
So I know
come after me.
we've kept you here. I mean, I could keep you here all night. But what is, I would say, with special effects?
I have another beer, so you have take your time.
Oh,
Thunder
I'm
Chicken
gonna go.
from Parallel
I got
49.
another soup juice in my fridge. What is, I would say, something that would surprise us laymen who have no knowledge of special effects? What would surprise us the most?
Visual effects and special effects are different departments. Visual effects does the CGI type stuff. Special effects will blow shit up, or special
Ooh.
effects will do like blood pumps of blood shooting out of somebody's neck, or blood bags exploding into Kevin's face.
Poor Kevin.
Or that girl. I think I sent you the video of the girl getting blood sprayed on her
So,
too.
like,
She was screaming.
whenever
screaming.
Did any actors or actresses, like whenever they had to read a scene that was like, oh, I'm getting sprayed with something, was there any like, oh God, or did they really lean into that moment?
Jensen hates it.
Oh, really?
Jensen does not
Okay.
want blood on his face. He doesn't have to. After 10 seasons, he's like, no, figure out a different way. I'm tired
That's
of this because it's sticky. It's literally corn syrup with red food coloring. So you're just covered in corn syrup all day.
Is it true that the water has lube in it, so it shows up on TV?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
It can
I honestly
have,
thought that
baby oil or something.
was fake. I've seen multiple
Or
things of
glycerin.
that. Ah,
Glycerin's a big one, or sometimes they have some weird lubey stuff for the goopy things. A lot of weird things that people have to eat are going to be made out of like gelatin, like colored gelatin and stuff.
Oh, gross. I'm a texture
so
person.
if you have
for
like
me,
a
that's- ugh.
vegetarian or a vegan on set, are there special things you can do, or are they just shit out of luck?
No, they'll just make something. They'll make meat out of gelatin or whatever, pectin or whatever is vegetable friendly.
Huh.
And we make that. We try to do that. So they'll contact the actor beforehand and say, "Do you eat meat? Do you have any allergies? You're going to be eating on camera. Are you okay eating this sort of thing?" Yeah.
So they actually like cater to the people and ask them. I just kind of figured it was like, you're lucky to be here. This is what you have to do.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there are some producers that would do that, but not on the shows I work.
But also after 10 seasons, you kind of, like you said, Jensen's like, I've been here for 10 seasons. I'm not doing figure out a different way.
Let's
Like,
do this crap.
you kind of have paid your dues to a certain degree.
100%. Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't blame them at all.
I
That's
wouldn't
what you
blame them
should do.
whatsoever. Like, yeah.
And they were both, Jared and Jensen were the kindest, the most humble, great people to work with. Like I have no bad things to say about them. The show wouldn't have gone for that long if they weren't awesome. And that's really what it comes down to. Because I've worked on shows that have been just as good, if not better, that will not go further because their cast are assholes. That's really the truth. And what are you going to do? Get rid of Sam and Dean and have a show? No, probably not.
It could have been the Kevin show. No, you're not going to have that show. You're right.
Well, they did a couple attempts at a backdoor pilot, and neither of those took off.
So I was watching that episode, and I told Carrie, my wife, and I was like, "This is definitely."
Oh, that's right.
I was sitting there. I was like, "This feels like a backdoor pilot." I was like, "This feels like they're setting up something else." And it was that episode with the the vampire nightclub and the Freddy Krueger claw man running around, and I was like, "This feels like a." And I texted Lauren, and she's like, "It's because it was supposed to be a backdoor pilot." And I was like, "See, I knew that. Sometimes you can just tell."
I really liked that one.
I think it was called that. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's times.
Yeah, we put a lot of extra work into that episode too. I think we shot for longer than 8 days, maybe like 16 or 20 days.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
A lot was put into that. A lot of time and energy was put into that. And then for it to not go, it's crazy.
Such a unique idea too.
I did too, and I thought the cast was fine. Like I thought they were good. You don't get Jared and Jensen very often coming through your doors. Like those guys are really above average in the what they bring to a character, for sure. For sure, what they brought to Sam and Dean, but other characters too. They're very cool and very easy to work with and understand the process. So when you're starting out with young actors, it's not easy. It's not easy. You need special people. And maybe these guys are. I don't know what they've gone on to do, but it's tricky. It's a tall order.
Yeah, the one girl, the werewolf. I know I haven't seen this show, but she's on the Manifest or something on Netflix.
Oh yeah, Manifest. Yeah.
Yeah, I see the trailers, and I was like, she looks familiar.
I think I've heard her name a few times mentioned around. I don't know what the guys are doing. I'll have to look it up.
It was interesting. I thought there was potential there, so it is interesting that they didn't pick it up, especially at the height of Supernatural's power. But
I wanted, sorry to interrupt, Lauren. I wanted I always dubbed it the orphanage, which would have essentially been like Jody Mills and Sheriff Hanscom and the Wayward Sisters, and bringing people into the fold and running their own organization. I always imagined they'd find like another man of letters somewhere and start their own thing. And I think they did try to do that. I think they had another. I think I did go back and actually watch that one. That's probably the only episode I've seen. But I really love those people. I love those characters. I love those actors.
I love Claire's one of my favorites.
Yeah, she's
a teenage girl version of Dean. And when she got cast for Cassie Lang, I was very excited. I was like, oh, she's going to kill it. And she did. That movie got a lot of flack, but I thought the movie was great. It was a fantastic comic book movie if you're familiar with comic books. Nope. And she killed the role, and I can't wait to see her come back.
Yeah. Yeah. She's talented. They were all they were all really good. Right. And I would love to see that. I'd still love to see that. But.
Yeah.
Oh, and she's in the new Frankenstein movie, funny enough, with Jodie's son from the Disney Channel, Zach and Cody.
It's Cole Sprouse. Okay.
There you go.
Yes, I'm seeing that movie tomorrow. Lisa Frankenstein.
Oh, cool.
Okay, well there you go. You got Claire in it. Yeah, both of Jodie Mills' adopted children. I've never watched Zach and Cody.
Me neither.
That was past.
So I don't know if it's her adopted kids. Well, I don't think I let Kaylee watch it because I saw like one scene and the kids were like mouthing off to the grown-ups, and I'm like, you're not watching that.
Oh yeah.
But some of the Disney Channel shows, the kids were just little smart asses, and my kids wasn't watching that. But yeah,
one thing
I love
I'm
Jodie
happy
Mills.
that I've never had to work on a kids Disney show. I think that would be tough.
I thought that'd be hard.
Tough.
Well, I saw an interview with the actress who played Jodie Mills, where she said that the kid was supposed, because it was the twins that were in Big Daddy, and they were in a bunch they were Ben from Friends. I don't know what their real names are, and they were supposed to make a fat joke about her when she was pregnant, and the kid that was acting was like, I'm not going to do that to her, and the kid stood up for her.
Oh yeah, that came out not too long ago. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So these jokes weren't the kids weren't being the asses. It was the writers, I guess, but
that'll happen. Well, usually producers more than writers, but yeah.
Right. Well, Lauren, as we do wrap up, why don't you go ahead? Any final questions you would love to know about your baby?
About my baby. Oh, is that a pun?
Yes.
I mean, again, yeah, I could keep you here all night, but I guess my last question is really, I know that you're still working on things that aren't just supernatural and that aren't just
yeah, you were just
comic
shooting
book
a
as
couple
well.
weeks ago. I saw on Twitter you were out there middle of the night shooting some things. Yeah.
Yeah, so tell us about whatever recent projects you have coming up, because you're doing more than just special effects these days.
Trying to stay busy. I did a Disney or ABC Hulu show last year called Death and Other Details. I was on as the main supervisor for most of that until post. That just came out recently. I still haven't seen it. I just did an action film on Vancouver Island called Viper, which stars Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, if you know him. If you remember that show, The Tudors, and
Yeah.
He's in it, and a few other great guys are in it. It's sort of like a war action type low budget thing. That was fun. We shot that for a couple of weeks over Christmas, and then I don't know what I'm doing next. I just got an email today about doing post-production on a couple movies for somebody. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm trying to get a couple features off the ground right now. Just read a script that I really, really like, and I might try to option. And yeah, that's sort of me right now. So we'll see what comes. Hopefully in the next little while, we can do something fun.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, we look forward to seeing what you do. Like I said, I always love seeing some behind the scenes things that you drop on Twitter. And yeah, man, let people know where they can first of all, where they can find your comic books again. And then also where they can find you in general.
Follow me, Ryan_Curtis on X, Twitter, and then read Slums of the Empire City on Global Comics website. It's the best place to find it.
You want to put the link in the bio?
When
I say we, I mean Matt will put the link in the bio.
I do some post-production work, but it's not nearly as good.
Mine's all pre. I'm research, he's post.
Yes.
Hey, good team. Good team.
We do very well. But Ryan, we seriously, man, really appreciate you coming on and chatting. Like I said, we could have talked for another couple hours plus. So I think there might be some more in our future, especially as you continue to create some really awesome stuff.
You two finish the show, then you can come back and we can have a casual discussion.
That means I'm on the hook for watching another 100-something episodes.
See, you're putting pressure on this man, and then
hey, I put pressure on you for years, and you finally watched.
Funny story. I did go on Netflix to try and watch a couple episodes to refresh myself. It's not on Canadian Netflix anymore.
What?
Oh no!
Yeah, I searched Supernatural, and it was like, "Oh, do you mean all these things?" I'm like, "No." So I'm not sure what's up with that. Yeah, I might have to get a VPN going.
That's weird.
Yeah, the day that happens, I'll be on Amazon buying all the DVDs.
I guess I got to finish before they take it off our Netflix too. But
hey, you know that? Sorry, one last trivia thing. You know they had to change the music on Netflix.
I heard on season 1.
Yeah.
That was so I want to buy season 1 because I've heard the music is phenomenal.
Yeah, but AC/DC in the first episode, they're doing Back in Black AC/DC pumping when the guys drive off. Then I watched it on Netflix. I'm like, wait, that's not AC/DC. What? And then
don't they do that in the first episode of like season, or maybe it's the first episode after they fix Baby after it gets hit by the truck? I feel like they're doing that. They're playing that.
I'm quite sure it was episode 1. I could be wrong.
I haven't seen the DVDs at all, so I'm not going to question you at all on that. But I wanted to buy them. But it makes complete sense because that was, I mean, streaming in 2005, Netflix was mailing me DVDs.
They were, yeah. That's
so
true.
There were no laws or contracts or anything in that regard.
Exactly.
Right.
So they had to go back and
interesting. Yeah.
They had to go back and redo all the music.
But I still, when I hear that
that's
song,
not cheap. It's very time consuming. Yeah, that's very true.
To go back and open up all those edits.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're
when I heard
using
they had
on it.
Go ahead.
No, you have to go like, oh yeah, we edited that 10 years ago on that Avid machine that nobody uses anymore, and you have to try and get all the resources and pull all those. I mean, a TV show has like 10,000 cuts in it, right? With how many sound effects? Yeah, it's a lot of work, anyways. But that was my last bit of trivia.
No, but I heard they had "Don't Fear the Reaper" on the Reaper episode when the Reaper's like chasing the people, and the one with Rita. So I need to buy that. It's just one of those. It's like it's hard to justify.
Physical media is the way to go now. When places like Best Buy are getting rid of it, it's getting harder. So I still am a big believer in physical media. Pick that up.
I'm agreeing with you. I know lots of actors that have done shows or directors that have done shows, and it disappears from streaming, and they don't even have a copy.
Well, that's what I'm
They
saying.
don't have
Like,
a physical copy of the work that they've done.
look at the. I mean, I'm not trying to point fingers, but Batgirl, for example, was a very good example of a recent movie that was shot, was ready to go, and then they decided that no, and so nobody's going to could see it. The actors, actresses who spent, like Brendan Fraser of all people, I was very excited to see his Firefly, and they'll never get to see that cut. We'll never get to see that cut, and it's one of those things. So make sure to physical media, man. I'm a big believer in that, whether it's comics, whether it's your movies, whether it's your TV. I've got boxes of DVDs
in my hand
that I will never get rid of for this reason right here. Like, streaming may be convenient, but it's not the be all end all. You never know when you're going to need it. So,
hey, we have hurricanes, and I'm pulling out that DVD player.
it's true.
And there's huge revenues to be made, especially when you just start doing specialty box sets releases, and you start adding other really interesting things, booklets and behind the scenes photos and that sort of stuff. There's money to be made. And on the streaming front, it had everyone known, Warner Brothers had known how popular Supernatural would have been on Netflix. They probably would have paid to license the proper music for streaming.
Without a doubt.
They didn't think it was going to be that popular. So they're like, well, it's cheaper for us just to record it with ordinary music than it would be to go back but had they known that they were going to get more
When I heard they never had Zeppelin because it was too expensive, but that's like Dean's favorite band.
If I remember, it's like 150 grand or 200 grand an episode to use the song for 30 seconds. Yeah, it was like crazy. A lot.
I should have done it just once.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the budget of a show is, but
didn't they do it in the last season? No.
Did they? They might have. I don't know all the. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Immigrant song or something. I thought maybe not.
I know they used. It was funny because I didn't know Radio Company until recently. Maybe like a friend introduced me to Radio Company like a year and a half ago, and I love it. I was putting Matt to sleep in the car last week playing it, but I love country music and chill music and whatnot, so I really loved Radio Company. And then I'm watching season 15 and I'm like, this is Jensen singing while he's chopping off a vamp's head.
Oh really? That's so funny. That's really
so
great.
They're playing Sounds of I think Someday from Radio Company in a scene, and he's just chopping off some kid's head. Yeah.
And that's, I mean, not necessarily that, but Phil Segretia is a huge music guy, really, really big music guy. Yeah. So that's where all those like really cool pulls, well, I shouldn't say that, there's a music supervisor as well, but anything that Phil's involved with in that regard, there's always really cool music that goes along with it.
Nice.
Yes. So. Thanks to this show and Guardians of the Galaxy, I listen to more 70s music than I ever thought imaginable.
Isn't that's great?
Well, my Spotify is like, you like dad rock.
You do. Divorced dad rock.
Yeah. You're listening to Impala Mix. Yeah.
Yep. It's all music from before I was born, but apparently that's what I listen to now.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, thank you again, man. Thank you. We'll have to have you. We'll have you on again soon. Yeah. Good luck with the move. Hopefully everything goes smoothly with that, and we'll be chatting again here soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, and good luck finishing up to season 15.